All right. All right. So we are recording now. And so everybody's aware that we are recording. In the state of Washington, it's a two-party law on recording where you have to let the other party know that you are recording. In Idaho, it is a one party. So you do not have to let somebody know that you are recording them, and vice versa. They don't have to let you know, which is very handy when you're having private meetings with law enforcement and other officials in Idaho, and they want to lie to you about it. Well, you can always go back with the recording, which I have found to be very helpful. All right, so for I guess we'll get started with this. Uh, Thank you guys for showing up, and I hope this is helpful for you. This is going to be a kind of a mini class on how to do records request. Um, they're not that hard to do. They the hardest part about it is figuring out which agency you have to do the records request to and how they want you to do it. There are three different ways that you can do a records request. You can do it through a web portal, which more and more municipalities are using our web portals, and that is very handy, and they're very easy to navigate and do. The other way you can do it is that you can fill out a form. Sometimes they'll have a particular form they want you to fill out, and you can either mail it by hand or snail mail, or you can email it. A lot of places are accepting records requests via email as long as you use their form. I find Idaho requires more forms to be filled out, whereas with Washington and a lot of other big cities have web portals. I've done records requests for Los Angeles, for Oakland, for a lot of places down in California, and they'll use web portals for that. And then the final way is just free form email. When you do a records request, there are some places that will allow you to just go ahead and type it up in an email what you want, and then they will provide that for you. So I guess what we'll start with, I think most people on here are probably looking at local records request in Spokane. Is that correct? It seems like something. Yeah. So
I
we'll
think
start. What's that?
I think the Washington and Oregon organizers group would probably be interested in this as well for
Oh, okay. Yeah.
their
Yeah.
area.
We can share it with them. So I'm gonna share my screen and we'll see how this goes. Let's see here. Share screen, and I think that is this one here. Share. Does that show it? No, that shows. Oh yeah, there we are. We're showing that now. Okay. Um, can you guys see my browser?
Yes.
Okay. So on the browser, I'm at Spokane County. Let's see if I can get to Spokane City. That's county. That's Los Angeles. Oh, they're both county. All right. We are going to go to, well, basically, if you go and you look up Spokane count or city um, police records request, and I'll provide some links. I'm trying to put together a form that will be easy for everybody. But you can go to City of Spokane to this link here. And if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll first see it where it just says records here. If you scroll down to the bottom where they kind of bury it, you'll see two links here. One, this is really handy. This is a great page to go to. It's a very handy page. It'll take you to where you can do a request for the city or a request for the county. And that is my Spokane, my.spokanecity.org/police/information. And we can put, I'll, I'll, I'll put together a form where we have that link on there. But once you're there, if you want to do a city request, you click on city request, and what you're going to do is you're going to come over to where it says submit a public records request. Now, if you already have an account, um, it'll ask you to log on. If you don't have an account yet, it'll ask you to create an account. And creating an account is not hard. It's just some real basic information for the city of Spokane. The problem is that when it comes to the city of Spokane and the county, Spokane County, or LA County, or the city of Los Angeles, um, each one will have you make your own account with them. Unfortunately, for Spokane County and city of Spokane, you can't use just one account, but that's not a big deal. So you would go ahead, create your account, and then over here on the side, you have some links that you can do as well, such as submit a request. You can look at my request center. So when I go and click on these, I can click on view my request and it'll show all the requests I've made in the past. And this is where it's going to ask you to log on. So, and you can see down here, first time users, please click below to create an account. Once you create an account, you can log on. And we'll see here. And you can see a lot of stuff there. Dismiss it, my invoice. But you can see that I've got quite a few um, records requests that are out there. And what's interesting that I'm noticing right now is it's not showing all of them. So I don't know if that's my browser or if they have purged some of them. We'll have to look into that later on. But if you want to create a records request for the city of Spokane, after you've logged on, you'd go to submit a request. And you would want to click on police records. Now, this is if you want to get incident reports, if you want to get body cam, if you want to get interviews. That's one of the biggest things that I look for are interviews of the officers and witnesses. The interviews of the officers are the most important because those will give you the most information about what happened, as well as finding out which officers are not telling the truth in these records requests because they will vary depending on the incident. And that was very helpful in our case with Craig Johnson when he was killed by Bonner County. One of the biggest things that we found by going through each individual's interview, each deputy, is finding out how each one told a different story. And then we started figuring out who was lying in their stories and which trails to go down to find out what really happened. So the incident reports and the interviews are the big ones. You can do body cam, uh, photos. You get a lot of aerial photos. You can get crime scene photos. They'll redact all these things. And so depending on how much they have to redact, um, they will charge you as well. The nice thing is that the city of Spokane and Spokane County are fairly um, public records request friendly. They really do a good job at being reasonable on cost and trying to find the information for you. And the people who work in the public records department are amazing. These people work very hard for us. And when you're making your records requests, I know it can take a long time for your records to come back to you. It can take months. It can take a year sometimes, depending on the records. It's not the people in the records department. It's not their fault. They are working their butts off. They have very few people in their department. And sometimes it comes down to police officers who are not filing their reports or filing their body cams. And they have to get on those guys and say, hey, look, I need this stuff for a records request. The other thing I want to mention real quick is that when it comes to records requests for the city of Spokane or for Spokane County, you're not going to get the 911 calls from them. 911 calls will be coming from their another center, and they've been really awesome about that as well. And I'll show you how to get to that as well. You can see down here, there's a link on here that says 911 records request, and that will take you to the Spokane Regional Emergency Communications Center to get that. The trick on the 911 records request is you need to be getting those as soon as possible or have some put a request in as soon as possible. They might not be able to get them to you, but then they'll know to hold on to them when they're available so they can get them to you, because the 911 records requests get purged fairly quickly. And so if somebody hasn't asked for them, and sometimes police officers don't ask for the 911 calls, those will disappear. So if there's something that you're interested in, make sure you jump on those calls. And those have been very helpful as well. So we're going to go to the police records request for the city of Spokane. So you just click on that. It'll load here. Pardon me. And it'll load this new window. And the first thing you need to do is you just have to figure out what you want. And you can select one of these or you can select all of these. And here we're looking at case report, body cam footage, CAD incident report, digital media, like the photos. I've had aerial photos of where there was an officer involved shooting showing the entire area, as well as close-ups of each individual shell that was found after the shooting. So you can get a lot of good information from that as well. And photos down here as well. So digital media, I guess that would all be the aerial photos maybe. And then, also audio interviews would be digital media as well. And those are pretty good too, because you can hear the inflections of the interviews. And so that was really helpful in our case when we're listening to the deputies being interviewed. We read the report and it was one thing to read it, but then when you heard the inflections of the officers and them kind of making light about killing my friend, that changed things. So that can be very helpful. Once you have these checked on what you want, and you don't have to know exactly what you want, but check some of them. And then down here is the important part. Describe the records being requested. So this is where it's just kind of free form typing with the information that you have. It's important to have dates, times, names if possible. So at least one person's name involved. When I did a records request, when the sheriffs apprehended a protester here in town, and it seemed kind of shady because they were transferring him around and they really never charged him with anything at first, but said that he had a, um, a warrant for his arrest because he had not paid a bill. I didn't have all the information on that, but I did have a date, and I could say that it was between noon and 5 p.m., and that was close enough. And then I had the person's name, so I was able to put the person's name in there. Looks like we got another person joining us, so let's see here. Oh, wait. Learning how to do this. So what did I do here? Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Emily is saying that if we want to do an example of one, here is a one that we want to do want to investigate. Okay. So, so here, going off of this report here, woman breaks into vacant apartment, claims to be rescuing hidden child. And Emily, if you or Anne-Marie want to unmute and kind of guide me through this on what we would be doing. So the first thing we need to find out is the date this took place.
Yeah, so I think that there's a date and time there. Well, I mean, it says Tuesday, so we'd have to.
Yeah.
Let me
So this came out on November 20th. And if we look at November 20th.
So it was November 17th.
November 17th. So the first thing that we would do is go to, how do I get rid of?
And there were 2 911 calls.
So we're going to look for the case report, incident report, and we'll just start with that.
Okay.
And so what we do is we'd say, please provide please provide the incident report, interviews, and what is it that you're particularly looking for on this one?
Interested in the 911 calls and the interviews with the cop, I would think. Anne-Marie, anything else?
I'm not hearing Anne-Marie, but So on here, we cannot do 911 calls. We'll have to do that one separately, which is fine. We'll do that separately. So we'll say incident report and interviews for the incident on, it was on the 17th of November.
Yes.
And then, so let's look at the article a little bit more. So it was around 9 p.m. and it, let's see here. So we're going to say,
Yeah, so the goal is to figure out why she was arrested when
Okay.
she needed mental health.
how do I get to my chat? There we go.
Help.
Can I move my chat? Yeah, there is my chat over here. Okay. I'm not on mute, so I don't know why you can't hear me. I don't know either. Anyway, we are trying to figure out why there was a breakdown in the call response. Why was a regular patrol sent and not a code? Oh, okay. Okay. So what we want to do then is we're going to say at approx. See, I get to spell in front of you guys and it's not fun. Approximately. Did I do it right? No, but I have spell check. It's approximately 9 p.m. in the area of North Washington Street in West Indiana. And we don't have the person's name, but we can
I
say,
didn't see her name in any of the articles, but I'm looking for something else that might have more specific times in it.
and we don't have to have the person's name, and they might redact that, which is perfectly fine. But to narrow it down, we'll just say what the incident was. So in this case, a witness there that was there. Let's see here. A woman had told a witness, okay, that
And
there
we
was a
would want
6-year-old
that
child. Huh?
down.
Let's see here. Okay, so we'll just copy this here where it says a woman had told a witness that there was a 6-year-old child in the apartment. She said that child was located in a hole in the concrete and she was trying to rescue them. The woman then set fire in the hole, then cut a large section of wall between the vacant apartments and her apartment. So we're gonna put that in there. Oops, no, we don't want to do that. Come down here. We'll just say and then on here, then we're going to put on here what happened to the person they talked to. She was booked into, okay. So officers confirmed there was not a child in the apartment. So we'll copy that. We'll put that in there. And then we'll put in here that the woman was booked into county jail. So that should get them close enough. So we put enough details in here that it should get them close enough to the incident. We have the date, the approximate time, the approximate location, and some details about what took place that will guide them into looking for that report. And it gives them some keywords to search on as well. So once you have a description in it, that kind of narrows it down. Let's see here. Let's see here. Then we're going to go to a start date, and we know this was on November 17th. And so we'll go back here to November 17th. And then we're going to say the end date. We're just going to say today because I don't know how far they're going to be looking for records. So it's good to give them kind of a window that they can search through. And that narrows it down. And then we'll say electronic record is what we're asking for, unless you want some other type. You can always, go down there, pick it up and things like that.
Yeah,
But
electronic for this purpose. I have a question. Why do you put the end date as today? Like, are there records that you'd expect would be recorded like weeks after the event?
yeah, yeah. Great question. And yeah, the reason for that is because this happened on the 17th. They might not have been able to talk to all the witnesses, let's say like within 3 days or something like that. So we want to give them a window that if anything pops up or any new information, any new interviews pops up, that they're looking in a big enough window to find that information, but it's not too big that's going to make it very hard for them to search. So you want to give them um, really close start date and time that they can start looking. That will narrow it down, and then they can find all records that way. And then once you have that in there, you just declare under penalty of perjury that you're not lying, and you have to also remember you cannot use any of the information you're getting for profit. And so you want to make sure you read through here and that what you're doing is because you're doing it for betterment of the public, for them to understand the operations of the police department, and that you're not going to use this for phone lists. You're not going to make a phone list out of this. You're not going to be contacting the people to harass them. You're not going to be making a profit off of this stuff. There are limits on how you can use this information. But the big deal here is that when I was asked on a training records that I was getting, um, let's see here, Anne Marie wants, yep, there we go. When I was asking for training records, I had to explain why I wanted the training records because there was so much personal information in there. And I told them flat out that all the information I get, I give out to the public because I'm making it available for the public. And they said, okay.
What if you were going to use it for some journalistic purpose, or you were going to write a book about a case that was very prominent at some point in time?
I believe that is all fine. I'm not a lawyer. I would, if you were going to use it that way, I would definitely look into the legalities of it. But my understanding is that you're not using personal information for gain. I think that's the big key there. That you're not going to be using it. You're not going to, well, it says on here, I understand that at a minimum, commercial purpose means that such lists will be utilized to contact or affect such individuals to facilitate in any manner profit expecting activity. So if you're doing it as a journalist, you're just relaying the information, but you're not like developing a list of names and addresses,
Yeah,
because you'll get addresses. You could end up with phone numbers, emails, and things like that. And that you're not going to take that information and sell it to like some scam artists or things like that, or some
right. You're
company.
not marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm. And so at this point, you just check the box that you're not doing it for nefarious reasons. And at that point, you have a chance to upload the files here. If you have any attachments, like for instance, when I'm looking for some records, I might have an incident report, and I might upload that incident report to help the records request person find the other additional records I'm looking for. And then there is a submit button that I am not seeing for some reason. I wonder if I can move my window over. No, it's not letting me. Let's see. Why is that not working? Well, I seem to be having a little bit of a problem with the website tonight. Let's see if I can. Well, it's not letting me submit for some reason. And that was unusual. And so we're not done though, because I'm going to, oh, and that's the other thing too. When you go to these portals to submit for a public record, you might want to make sure you copy what you've written down, because if it doesn't work the first time, when you go back to do it again, all your stuff is lost. And so it won't allow you to copy it. Or it won't let you, I mean, you're gonna have to start all over typing it in. But what am I missing here that's not giving me a do we know for sure this is a city of Spokane and not a Spokane County?
It could be because the county jail is listed in the records
Oh,
request form, and they're like, visit the county public records request website instead.
could be. So let's go to the county and see what happens there. Because if we look at this, this happened on North Washington Street in Indiana. No, that's the city. North Washington in Indiana, that's the city.
And it was SPD that responded.
Okay. So let's go back here and find out why this isn't working. Well, I'll tell you what, since it's not working, let's get out of it. I already copied it. So let's get out of here and then go back into it. City request. Submit a request. Let's see here. Police records. We're going to go for incident report, other, because we don't know what other might be. Digital media, we'll say body cam, case report, photos. We'll just check them all. See whatever, we'll see what floats up. And then we come back here. November 17th. Today, electronic. Well, that is really weird. Why is it not letting me have? Well, their page might be broken right now, which makes a really bad time for me to be doing a class on it. So usually there's a submit button down here, and it's not allowing me to do that. So we're going to come back to this at a different time then.
Well, I have a question,
Sure, yeah.
Jim.
Yeah.
Could you scroll back up again to the request form, please? Yeah, and then it has, scroll down, please.
Mhm.
It has preferred method to receive.
Mhm.
What if you try to do US mail instead of electronic?
So all that's going to do is they're going to make copies, and then that'll make, that will also make your request more expensive, by the way. Not by a lot, because I believe it's 5 cents per page, but it can add up. And so,
Well,
yeah.
I'm just suggesting that because will you be able to request it if it's in a different format is all I'm thinking.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not giving me the button. Typically the button's here no matter what. So I don't know why it's not showing up right now, which is very unusual. Because you would have a submit button, and for some reason it's not showing up.
Can we try a 911 request?
Yeah, let's do that.
Thanks.
So let's go to submit a request. Police 911. And these guys are fantastic. This is the Spokane Regional Emergency Communication Center, and they have been outstanding. They will give you a phone call. And I found with the other ones too, the county and the city, if they have more questions, they'll call up and say, hey, I'm not trying to pry. I'm just trying to find this. And you don't have to tell me. But if you can give me kind of a little more information on this, I might be able to find the record. And they're not trying to trick you or anything. They're just trying to find the record for you. And so I've had them call up and I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell you what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, well, here you go. The 911 people have been amazing. So you would go to, so let's go back real quick here. So what we did was we clicked on this 911 records request. And this was from the city's website. And then we went to public records. And then request records. And once again, they're going to ask you to log on, and you have to have an account for each one. Did I do that right? submit. You can see down here they have a create an account thing for you if you don't have an account. But once you have these accounts set up, it's pretty easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here. We want 911 crime check call audio. I check other as well, because what was that? Dispatch. Well, you know what? I don't know if that works or not. They've given me dispatch before. Yeah. No, I'm not going to do it on that one. But sometimes you might be able to get some radio audio and things like that. But I think they'll let you know in each case. They've told me when there's extra audio. But they've been really awesome about it. So check the 911 crime check call audio. Once again, electronic. That's the best way for me, at least. But you can do it any other way you'd like. So they're going to ask for a report number. We don't have one. And so I don't include that. And that's been okay. As long as I give them enough information, related report numbers. I don't always have that as well. Last name of caller. I don't know who the caller is or their first name. I don't know the number they're called from. So it's going to be kind of vague. But even as vague as this is, they have been really helpful at finding the information we've been looking for. On here, I really don't know what to put on here, so I usually just throw something in there, kind of,
Well,
yeah.
Why don't you scroll down? I think there's some more options.
Oh, other. There we go. There you go.
And then it would be, she was arrested for malicious mischief, so maybe property damage or something.
Okay. See, Anne Marie knows.
It was referenced as a break-in too, so
Oh, so burglary could have been correct, I guess, or
yeah, it was referenced as a couple things, even though the arrest was.
breaking and entering then, or?
Well, and the call would have been taken as because this 911 call, the person would have been calling. They probably would have been calling, and they said that there was a child being held hostage, right?
Yeah.
So I would say hostage, and that might give them a little bit to look at something there. But you don't, like I said, you don't have to be very specific. The important parts are the dates and times, and the details that you can give them. So we're going to come back to November 17th, and we're going to say until today because we don't know. Approximately 9 p.m.
Well, the cops took about 45 minutes to respond, so the call could have come in anytime between 7:30 and like 9.
Says dispatchers received the call at 9 p.m.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna say,
But there were 2 calls.
and then here's the nice thing is that we give them kind of a time,
Uh-huh.
but they're gonna look all around that time.
Oh, okay.
They've been, and like I said, they'll search for it, and if they don't find something you're looking for, they'll call you up and say, "Hey, I'm having a hard time with this." And the 911 people have been amazing on it.
Cool.
So then I'm just going to put the same description in here, but please provide the 911 calls or the 911 audio for the incident. I have that date on here. And then I'm going to come down here, and I remember that we put the area of Washington and Indiana. So I'm going to copy that and paste that up here in the location. Where's my, what's going on here? There we go. The area of, there we go. So the like I said, the important thing is the date, kind of getting it in the time area so they have a closer area to look at, and the location, if you can get a location, and then just the details about what happened. That will give them kind of clues to it. After that, you just go ahead and check that you're not going to use this for bad reasons. Oh, and CAPTCHA. So then see if I can do this right. I am not a robot. And then you just hit submit. And there you have it. And then I'll end up getting an email with confirmation from this, and they'll start looking into it, and they'll let me know. So I mean, that's pretty it. I mean, when you look at the different systems, if we go and look at let's see here. If we look at the Spokane County, same thing. You know, you have My Request Center, submit a request. Once you click on one of these, if you don't have an account, you create an account, you log in. Yeah, I know my passwords are compromised. And then like on here, I can view my requests. Let's see how this one's doing. So you can see I've got several pages of them of what I'm doing. And when you look at your requests, you can see the progress where they're at. You can see if you have invoices that you need to pay or have been paid in the files. You can see if they've been completed. But you go to My Request Center, and this is for Spokane County, and you can go to or submit a request. Sorry, click on submit a request, and it's the same format pretty much. You're gonna go down here, and does this one have it? This one I might have. This one might not take me to the sheriff one. Let me see here. Let me get out of this one. Let's go back here. County request. By the way, I'm not a professional educator, so sorry.
You're doing a great job, man.
Thanks, David. Okay, so this takes us Spokane County, and it's slowly loading in. We should get some. Here we go. My Request Center. And I thought it should take me to, or let's here, go submit a request. Let's do that one. It's very slow tonight. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it does. It takes you here and then submit request to county sheriff. So it's a little bit different than the cities, but kind of the same idea. There we go. So now we're into the county sheriff, and you can do the same thing. You can ask for I think this is computer assisted dispatch report. I think CAD. I don't know.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So the CAD report is the computer systems report. So you can request that photo, audio, incident report. They make it pretty simple on the sheriff's one. Once again, you type in your description of what you're looking for and try to be as detailed as possible. You don't have to have specific information as long as you can give them enough information to guide them to where you're looking for. Date, pick the starting date as close as you can. If you think it might be on a certain day, but you're not sure, go a few days earlier so they can look a few days earlier. In the Ethan Murray case, I knew the date that he was shot, but I also knew that some things had taken place before that. And I wanted to find records related to him before they had shot him and killed him. And so I actually made my start date for them to search a couple of days earlier. And that provided information about other contacts they had right before the day that they went and killed him. Involved parties, if you have names of people, that really helps. And then electronic is how I do all of mine because I put them out there on the network anyways to share them with everybody. You check the box once again saying you're not going to use it for commercial purposes. And then this one has type of requester. I always do individual. I just say, hey, just concerned citizen. And then this is like where we didn't have on the other one. This is where you would have the submit button right here, and then you would just submit your request. Anybody have anything specific they want me to talk about or show you?
This is a little bit different. If I could, I've got a few things and I won't ask them all right now. I'll wait till other folks have a chance or you go back to something. But what about, so there are 4 different incidents over time that I'm kind of interested. Some of them go way back, right? So, I mean, what about like historical files that police department might have? For example, in 1963, an airman from Fairchild was killed by Spokane police, and a military police officer. It was a fairly big deal because the guy was a Puerto Rican nationalist, and it involved a bunch of issues related to Puerto Rico and things of that sort. A lot of news coverage. But I mean, do you think you could make a request to a police department that might still have files on? I mean, do they maintain files indefinitely on killings, say, as opposed to other crimes, or do you know?
It kind of depends. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they purge some of their records. I have been able to go back and find records on shootings from, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Um, but there are times where I ask for information. Well, actually, there was one shooting by that involved the public information officer for Spokane Police Department, Terry Pruninger.
Yeah.
And his officer involved shooting took place, I think, in the 90s. And so I went back to the early 90s, I think is when it was, and I did a request on that, and they had all those records. So they've been really good. So you can go back quite a ways, it seems. When I did a request for all officer involved shootings for the city of Spokane, they were able to give me a list that went back to 1974. I don't know if I can get detailed records going all the way back to 1974, but in this case, the one involving Officer Pruninger, I was able to get the detailed records on that one as well, which had a lot of interviews and incident reports. So
So
it's been pretty good. Yeah.
in that situation with Pruninger, or say the Jerome Alford killing in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
can you just ask them when these are, completed cases? It's a long over case. Can you just request the entire police file on that crime, or do you have to break it down into pieces and get them to cough it up?
So it depends on the agency you're working with. Now, typically, with all public records requests, if you ask for, like, for instance, one of the problems I'm having with Kootenai County right now is I asked for all the incident reports, interviews, and body cam. And so they came back and they're trying to charge me, I think, around $4,000 for all of that, because they're telling me it's going to take nearly 100 hours for them to redact and go through everything. So if you do request a lot of information, some of it that you think might not be useful for it to you, it could rack up a fee. Typically in Spokane, I haven't had that problem. They've been really good about that. And I've been really appreciative that they've kept the fees down pretty low. However, the other problem is that with most public record acts for various different states, it is illegal for a person to request multiple public records regarding a certain incident and doing multiple requests to avoid um, paying fees. And that's something I probably should have brought up earlier, is that when you do a public records request, typically the first 100 pages of being copied are free, and then after that they start charging you for those pages um, for redacting and stuff like that. So the first 2 hours, I guess the first few 100 pages of actual copies are usually free, and then the first 2 hours of labor it takes for them to redact or find information, all that, that's free, and they can charge you for time it takes beyond those 2 hours. And then the same thing with body cam. When they go to redact body cam, they can charge you for those hours as well. And that's where some agencies can really nail you on that. So if you go and you request information and you're like, oh, I'm going to get around that because if I ask for the incident report, that's going to take them less than an hour. That'll be free. And if I ask for body cam from this officer, that'll take less than an hour, so I'll get that free. If they find out you're doing that, then you could be charged. I don't know if you're charged with a crime or if you could be fined, but there is usually a law written into the Public Records Act that it is against the law for you to request multiple public records requests to get around having to pay fees. But at the same time, the catch is if you do a large record request for things that you don't need, then you could end up with a hefty fee to get those documents. One of the things I've argued with Bonner County, unsuccessfully so far, is that they tried to claim I was trying to skirt the system by making multiple public records requests. However, I pointed out to them, the only reason I asked for some of these other records is I didn't know they existed until I got the first records. So that was
Right.
how some of them worked for me. I talk a lot, sorry.
It's good.
Okay. Any other questions on public records or anything I can help with? And like I said, if you guys want to do public records requests and you want help with it, let me know. You know, you guys can do them on your own and call me up and say, hey, I'm not sure where to go on this. Can you walk me through it? I have no problem with that. You can reach out to me.
If somebody else has a question, feel free. If not, I'll go ahead and ask you another one.
Sure.
So I had an unsuccessful request to the Spokane Police Department.
Mhm.
It involved, I was watching Democracy Now! A number of years ago, and in a report they did, an email flashed on the screen, and I stopped the video and looked at the screen. It was about a situation that occurred in the port of Olympia. It involved people that were trying to stop striker brigades from being sent to Iraq. These are the striker brigades that after they got to Iraq, we found they called them kill teams. They were basically killing people and taking trophy years and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Well, there was the folks that this organization, Port Resistance, Militarization Resistance Group, was infiltrated by a guy from Fort Joint Base Lewis McChord, who worked for military police. He infiltrated the Wobblies and a couple other groups and this particular organization. So when he was discovered to have infiltrated their group, they sued for, he had tried to provoke them to carry out acts of violence and things like this. So Democracy Now! Covered this story 3 different times. And in this one instance, they showed this video or this email, and they described that this agent from Joint Base Lewis McChord had been in contact with police departments around the country, trying to establish his own network to track activists and anarchists around the country. And this email was an email from him to some people within the Spokane Police Department. So I wanted to get additional communications that there might have been between him and people in the Spokane Police Department and back. So I probably did too broad of a request, but I got narrower with it as time went on. I never told them that I had this image that had been broadcast on TV. They claimed that they did a variety of search words. They sent me the email with the search words that they had searched. They claimed they had no emails at all. Now, maybe they purged them and they didn't, but this email existed because
Sure.
I have an image of it. It was shown on TV and et cetera. And it has the names of officers at the Spokane Police Department. Do you have any thoughts on, where I might have gone wrong that they claim that they didn't find anything at all? Because they claimed they searched that period of time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that they can search that period of time. However, the people in the records department are limited on what they can search for, because they can only look for things that have been entered in. And emails are really difficult as well. And different agencies have different ways of doing emails. The right thing for for emails to be searched would be for an IT specialist or somebody other than the police officer looking for them. In Bonner County, when I've done requests for emails, because that's one of the other things is when you're doing a records request, you can request emails. I've requested the officer's handwritten notes that they keep in a notebook when they're on a call. You can request whatever you want. Doesn't mean you're going to get them, but you can request them. In Bonner County, the way they did the email request was they went to each officer and said to them, "Do you have any emails related to this case? If so, forward them to me." They let the officers decide if they had the emails or not. The officers would come back and say no. And then later on, we'd find another officer that submitted an email that had the other officer that said no on it, which means, wait a minute, the other officer lied, right? So in this case with Spokane County, the one thing that I probably would do is share the image with them, upload it to them, and let them know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Because honestly, the records request people, I've had conversations with them. They are not trying to hide anything from you. They will give you whatever they are able to give you. They want to help you. They really do believe in the Public Records Act. But if an officer, for some reason, deleted the email or it got purged out or it wasn't entered into records, they can't search for it. But if you sent them the image of the email, that would give them more information to go off of. And in some cases where I've had pictures and stuff that I've sent to them, at first they said we didn't have the information. And then I talked to them and said, well, this is what I've got. They said, well, wait a minute. And they went and talked to the actual officer and said, how come we have this information from this person, but we don't have it in our system? And then made the officer upload that information. So the more information you
I
can
might
give to
talk
the
to you.
public records person, it helps. I lost you there for a second,
I might
David.
talk to you about that one later and maybe share with you the requests I made, and you can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing about public records requests. You can ask for just about anything, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. Let's see, we're getting some chats here. Oh, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, at the bottom, so the question is, I didn't see where you can attach things. So at the bottom, there's a little, oh, hold on, I stopped sharing my screen. Let me fix that. Sorry, guys. Where am I? I am on that one. Okay. So at the bottom down here, so right now we're on the Spokane County. As you scroll to the very bottom, just before the submit button, there's an upload files button here. And if you click on that, that'll allow you to upload the files. And then I wonder, I'm going to see if I can do this one here. See, it's not giving me the submit button. Something's up with the City of Spokane's website right now. It's not giving me the submit button. But at the bottom down here is also the upload files. And I will continue to work with the City of Spokane site to get that request in for you guys about that incident we did for the 911 call. But let's see here. I want to, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stop sharing. There we go. So that's pretty much it. I do. Oh, you know what? Real quick. I know people probably have better things to do right now, but real quick, I'm going to show you when I say that, just for other places like the one of them I have on here is the City of Los Angeles, where you can do requests. Now I've done this because, for instance, Spokane County Sheriff's Department has gone and they said, hey, we just hired these new deputies from California. They're great guys. Well, I don't know if they're really great guys or not, just because the Sheriff's Department said they were. So what I've been doing is I find out, well, where did they come from? And usually that's in their press release when they talk about who they've hired. And so then I'll do a public records request for their use of force records and discipline records to see, hey, are we getting a bad seed up here from some other department? And so it's good to know on other places like the City of Los Angeles or Oakland, and it takes some sleuthing to find out where some of these people are. There's some retired cops up in Bonner County I've done background checks on, and it's taken a while to figure out where they come from and go to those departments. And in some of those departments with retired officers, 6 months after the police officer has retired, their records purged. So when I did a records request on one officer, they said, yeah, he worked for us, but we have zero information on him now. So I wasn't able to find out, how many officer involved shootings was he in? Did he have use of force problems? Did he have discipline problems? Because after being retired 6 months later, his records were gone. So that's some of the problems you run into with that. Let's see here. Would those use of force and discipline records be best separate or as one submission? I've always done them together as one, and I've never been charged fees for them. I've got a few of them, and the ones I've received so far have been pretty minimal, not much to find, and they didn't cost much because on those there, they don't have to do much digging, so they can usually get them done within 2 hours. So doing it as one is always the way I've done it. I don't know if that's the right way or not, but it works for me. Let's see here. Let's see here. And if you don't have a web portal for the agency you're looking for to do your records request, then just contact the agency. You usually go to their websites, and just going to their website and finding out what it says in records request, they'll either take you to a web portal or they'll have a form you can download and email to. And if you can't find that, there's always an email address on the agency's website that you can email and just simply say, hey, this is the information I'm looking for. It's basically like doing a records request just through an email and say, hey, I'm looking for information regarding David Brookbank. He was an officer with Whoville, and I want to know how many Whos he beat up. And so then all of a sudden they'll come back and they'll say, oh, okay, we'll look into this for you. Or they'll say, well, here's a form for you to fill out. Or they'll say, here's a link to fill out to a web portal. They've usually been really good about things like that. And I will harp on Idaho a little bit more because those are the ones that are difficult that I'm fighting with. In fact, I just filed a complaint with the Idaho Attorney General about Kootenai County today. So we'll see how that goes. So some of the agencies you do have to work with, they're going to fight against you getting records, but other places are pretty good about it. So we're lucky with Spokane. So that's all I've got, unless you guys have any other questions.
I keep waiting briefly to see if anybody else is going to speak up. Can I ask you one more?
Sure.
Okay, I don't know how you would approach this. So there is a full lockup detention room on the second floor of the STA building downtown.
Sure.
On the second floor. I know that because I was briefly detained in it about a year ago. I asked around and couldn't find anybody that even knew it existed. Neither Ben Stuckert nor Brian Beggs was aware it existed. What I'm interested in, after having been in it and realizing that it was not clear to me at all what kind of authority these security guards at the STA Plaza had, and that it wasn't known to people like Brian Beggs, who's not only on the council but a civil rights attorney. I'd be interested to find out how it was authorized, who controls it, who's detained there, how many people do they detain, what's the disposition, how many are just released like I was, an old white guy. They just said, hey, I think the guy realized this, I shouldn't be detaining a guy like this. I'm here to detain, poor people, mentally ill people, people of color, etc. But how many injuries occur there? How many people hurt themselves when they're in there? I mean, it's not a place you would expect that you'd be taken into and be locked into a white room with a bench and a fisheye camera. So how would you approach getting that kind of information?
So on this one, it would be the city of Spokane. It sounds like that would be the ones that have it, or is it joint, Spokane and Spokane County?
Yeah, so I need to do a little research into
Well, and not necessarily.
the
So if
place
I
that
don't
might be.
know, if I don't know, I'll take my records request. For instance, when I did my first records request for all officer involved shootings, and I did it to several different agencies. I put in there what I was looking for, that I wanted them to start from 1900 to present. And I said, I would like to have the following information. And so I listed what I wanted. I wanted to know officer involved. I wanted to know the people that were involved. I wanted to know if it was fatal. I wanted to know what the incident report was. If you can get incident reports, that's really a gold mine. It's great to have that so you can start getting more information that's tied to it. And sometimes one incident can have multiple incident report numbers or other type of identifying numbers. So it's also good to be aware of that. And the more you dig, you can start finding some of that information, because I've had information handed over to me and then like, oh, you know what? We found out that there was another number for this. Also, if there's multi agencies involved, um, the it was oh gosh, no, I feel bad forgetting the name. Steven Anderson, I believe, was killed in Cheney by the Cheney police and Eastern Washington University police, and it was investigated by our investigation team. I forget what we call it here, but it's a multi-agency team. And
Sir,
yes, yeah, um, and so when I did my records request, I did it to the city of Cheney first, and then they said this is all we have, and so then I went and did it to Spokane County. Interesting, the thing about Spokane County is they said, well, we don't have those records, you have to get those from the Spokane city. So I ended up doing records requests for one incident to 3 different agencies to be able to get all the records on it and pile them together, and they each had various different numbers connected to them to find that information. But it can be done. But in your situation about that room at STA, you just do the best you can to word what exactly you're looking for, and they'll come back to you and let you know, hey, this is either we didn't find it. And if they do come back and say we didn't find it, it's okay to come back to them and say, no, it's there. I know it's there. Here, try this. They'll work with you. There's sometimes I've received record request denials where they've closed my record request. I've written back to them and say, hey, please don't close this yet because I know this information here. Here's some more information on it. And then they've come back and said, oh man, I'm sorry, you're right. I found this now because of the additional information you've added, and they've opened up a second request for me. So they will work with you to help you narrow down what you're looking for. But in your initial request, be as detailed as possible. They're not looking for perfection. They're just looking for what is it that you really want, and they're going to try to help you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Melanie said maybe you could try for surveillance footage of the STA detention room. That is a good idea. That would be a good one too, to find out what they have there for surveillance footage of the detention room and request some of that. But once again, depending what you're asking for, it could get expensive. So far, it was the city of Spokane and Spokane County. It hasn't. Other agencies. Luckily, I have not been billed for it because I have not received the records, and they won't give me the records until I pay. But over in Idaho, if you combine all the agencies over there, it's probably around $30,000 for records that are still owed to me that they want me to pay. One of them was a $20,000. Was it 20,000? Maybe it was $7,000. One of them was $7,000 or something like that, and they wouldn't give it to me. But then another agency said, "Oh, here, just take it." So another agency gave up the same information. Another agency wanted me to pay thousands of dollars for. So, oh, also, and I know, I'm sorry, guys. One of the other things that occurred to me was that who has custody of who's the custodian of the record? That's a term they use. Who has the report? Who has the photos? So, for instance, in Bonner County, they kill somebody in Bonner County, and Idaho State Patrol is the one that they decide is going to go ahead and investigate it, Idaho State Patrol might do the investigation, but they might not hold on to the records. They might not be the custodians of the records once the investigation is over. They might hand it all back to Bonner County, at which point Bonner County will claim we didn't do the investigation. We're not the custodians. You're going to have to ask ISP. So you might end up going back and forth until you identify who is the actual custodian. And they will deny being the custodian quite often over in Idaho, so they don't have to give you the records. That's one of the reasons I filed a complaint with the AG today. So then, for real, that is all I have on that. So if you have any questions. Oh, Anne Marie, the detention room run by SPD or by the private security company that works for the plaza. Oh, and David. That is the one thing I want to know. Who runs the room? Do multiple agencies or parties have ability to use it? SPD, Securitas, STA Security. Well, so that's what maybe who's funding it. Sounds like it's being funded by Spokane, City of Spokane. And so I would do just an initial request to Spokane Police Department, and they will tell you if other agencies use it. So.
Because
Sounds
what I'm
good.
wondering is, it sounds to me like if someone shoplifts at the mall, the private security comes and puts them in a room and tries to scare them or contacts the police to arrest them. That's kind of what the situation sounds like to me. So I'm wondering, maybe your best bet would be the STA, since it's their building.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I was given a 30-day exclusion for what happened with me, which was simply that I was there at first thing in the morning so I could get my bus pass renewed, so I could get to work. And instead of getting the employee greeting me, I got a security personnel at the window, and I said, I'm not interested in talking to you. I know I was rude. I'm not interested in talking to you. I need to talk to her. And when she didn't, she was behind two pieces of glass. So I knocked on the glass, and he came around the corner and said, you don't need to be beating on the glass. And next thing I know, he had me bent over and handcuffed, and then took me upstairs and put me in this room. And I'll be serious, especially, I felt kind of like, well, after the fact, after I talked to Brian, city people who didn't even know this room existed. The first thing that occurred to me, and I'm a white old male, but the first thing that occurred to me when that door closed and I'm sitting in this room that I never knew existed, and this fisheye camera, I thought of, suddenly I'm forgetting her name, but the woman that was killed in a jail cell in Dallas, the one that was stopped on the road by a police
Sandra
officer who
Bland.
said he was going to light. Pardon?
Sandra Bland.
Sandra Bland, right? I mean, it's like, you can't have a room like that your city council people, including your civil rights attorneys in town, don't know exists, that the police are detaining people in for what? I mean, and not even police. These were the STA Plaza guys. So I know our limited commission police officers, but the Securitas guys, I mean, just, how much of that kind of off the books, quote unquote, law enforcement is being done in our city. And more of it is being done by these private security companies who are all over the place and are swatted up. So,
And that's why
thanks
it's
for
really
those.
that's why it's really important to do records requests, because the local reporters and stuff, they're not going to report on this stuff. It's up to us to get this information and get it out there, and it's up to us to make our city transparent. So what you're looking for, I would start with a records request to the city of Spokane, and then that's where we all have to be Sherlock Holmes, and we have to do our own investigations. And people will mock you, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, how are you going to investigate? Well, you know what? Just having a curious mind and looking into these things is doing a huge favor to the public by exposing some of these things that they don't know about. And you can make a change that way. So I would start with a records request to the city of Spokane, and then get what information you have from that. I would do the same records request. You can do them all at the same time. You don't even have to wait. Do a records request to the city of Spokane, do one to the sheriff's department. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to come back and say, yeah, we don't have anything to do with that. or they could give you more information. And also, if you look on it when you're doing the county, let's see if I can come back here. Where is it at here? Share screen. When you're doing the county, submitting a records request, see if I'm in the right spot here. On here, it gives you an option. If you're not going to the sheriff's department, it gives you an option to the different places you can go. You can do records requests for the assessor, the auditor, board of commissioners, budget. I mean, there's all these different places that you can ask for a variety of information. I just happen to concentrate on law enforcement because that's where my passion is. But if you're looking for information regarding various different things about the city, such as STA Plaza, what's their budget? Where's their money coming from? Who's renting space from them? These are all things that you can do records requests for through the county and get information on. Um, so don't just limit your records request to the sheriff's department or the police department. Depending on what you're looking for, you might find it better going to one of these other places to find out how facilities are being used, or finding emails. I mean, if you're looking for something about that room and somebody is writing an email saying, "Hey, I didn't know about this," there might be more emails talking about that room and more information that they haven't made public yet. Any other questions? All right. Well, hey, you bet, David. Um,
Yeah,
thank you
thanks,
guys.
Jim.
Hey, not a problem. And like I said, my first time trying to teach something like this, I don't have all the answers, and I'm just trying to do the best I can. But if you have more questions that pop up later on, or you want help with any of these things, please reach out to me.
Sure.
I love making things public and letting our public know about things that belong to us. I mean, they call it public record for a reason. And so let me know if you need help with any of this. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now. Let's see here.